Hey guys, welcome to the ninth video of the Linux interview question and answer series. And if you haven't watched the previous 8 videos, I'll put the link into the description. You can watch them. I hope they are useful for you. And if you like the video, click the like button, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to get more videos. Because your support will motivate me to make more videos. Because one of our friend has already given me a suggestion to make a video on a specific topic, and that is cluster. And one of our friend has given me the suggestion to use the practical sessions. So once this series of 10 videos is completed, I will be posting videos every day. So stay tuned. I'll be coming up with new videos every day. Also, I'll be discussing different technologies, so don't miss these videos. All right, without further ado, let's get directly into our first question, and that is, what are the different type of raids? Which is the best raid? Raid. Raid is nothing but it is a technology that is used to increase the performance or reliability of data storage. And the abbreviation for RAID is redundant array of inexpensive disk or redundant array of independent drives. A RAID system consists of two or more drives working in parallel. These can be hard disk, but there is a trend to also use the technology for SSD. SSD is nothing but the solid state drives. These are different RAID levels, each optimized for a specific situation. These are not standardized by an industry group or standardization committee. That is the reason why companies sometimes come up with their own unique numbers and implementation. Below you can see different RAID levels, and these are the rates which are used maximum in organizations, because there are RAID 2, 3, 4 as well, but they are not used. These are the commonly used RAIDs in organizations. RAID 0 is used for striping, RAID 1 is used for mirroring, RAID 5 is used for striping with parity, and RAID 6 is used for striping with double parity. RAID 10 is for combining mirroring and striping. And the answer for which is the best RAID is 10, because it provides both the features of striping and mirroring. Guys, keep in mind, you just have to understand the topic, because RAID is a very big topic and it cannot be included into a specific one slide or two slide. So what I will do is I will create an entire video on RAID and I'll post it so that you get a better idea about it. Coming to our next question, that is difference between load average and CPU average. The load average and CPU average are actually two different things that you have to keep in mind. Load average is a measurement of how many tasks are waiting in kernel run queue, not just CPU time but also disk activity over a period of time. So if you want to see the load average, which we have already discussed in our earlier videos, you can go to the part 5 of Linux interview question and answer. You will get the entire details how load average works. So with the help of command uptime, you can see these three values. These are nothing but load average. Linux load average are system load average that show the running thread demand on the system as an average number of running plus waiting threads. This measures demands which can be greater than the what the system is currently processing. Most tools shows 3 average that we have already discussed in our earlier videos for 1, 5 and 15 minutes. CPU utilization is a measure of how busy the CPU is. So you have to understand the difference between load average and CPU usage. Both are different. So the exact formula of load average calculation is load average is equal to task running plus task waiting for cores plus task blocked. So this is how the load average is calculated. Coming to the next slide, when it comes to CPU usage, whenever a Linux system CPU is occupied by a process, it is unavailable for processing other requests. So that is but obvious. If a CPU is already occupied, the other process will wait in the queue so that the first process is completed, and the CPU is idle, then only the process will come and start processing with the help of that idle CPU. Following command will help you to identify CPU utilization. For CPU utilization, we mostly use top command. Top command is used to monitor the entire system. It is a very good performance monitoring tool, and I will be making an entire video with practical about the top command. Here we will just see the highlights and important points regarding it. So top command is used to see the CPU usage, can be seen under CPU statistics, which is highlighted in yellow color. If you can see, you can see link CPU utilization under CPU statistics, the task share of the elapsed CPU time since the last screen update, expressed as a percentage of total CPU time. The top command produces a frequently updated list of processes. By default, the processes are ordered by percentage of CPU usage, with only the top CPU consumers shown. The top command shows how much processing power and memory are being used, as well as other information about the running processes. So this was about CPU usage. Moving to the next slide. Suppose if you are asked a scenario based question, if a system crashed, how to use kdump file start the system? Or you can be asked, if a system crash, what you will do? So in that case, you can answer kdump is a facility or a feature available. Kdump is a utility used to capture the system core dump in the event of system crashes. These captured core dumps, what we will do of these captured core dumps, it can be used later to analyze what was the exact cause of the system failure and implement the necessary fix to prevent the crashes in future. Once we know that the system got crashed due to this reason, so we will avoid such type of things in future. kdump reserves a small portion of the memory for the secondary kernel called crash kernel. So you have to understand there is a secondary kernel that we create. It is called as crash kernel and also called as secondary kernel. This secondary or crash kernel is used to capture the core dump image whenever the system crashes. The kexec is a Linux kernel to kernel bootloader that helps to boot the second kernel from the context of first kernel. Kexec shuts down the first kernel, bypasses the BIOS or firmware stage and jumps to second kernel. So it becomes easier to reboot in the absence of the BIOS stage. kdump can be used with exec application. For example, when the second kernel or the crash kernel is booted at the time when the first kernel panics, the second kernel is used to copy the memory dump of first kernel. Why are we copying the memory dump? To analyze the exact cause of the system failure. The exec mechanism, the kexec mechanism has components in the kernel as well as in user space. The kernel provides a few system calls for kexec reboot functionality. A user space tool called kexec tools uses those calls and provides an executable to load and boot the second kernel. So these are some of the points, necessary or important points you can say, which you can keep in mind and accordingly you can answer. Coming to the next question, what is an inode number? What is the difference between inode and PID? An inode is nothing but an entry in inode table. What does that inode, what does the table has? It's containing info. What info? That is metadata. What is metadata? Metadata is about a regular file and directory. An inode is a data structure on a traditional Unix style file system such as ext4, ext3 or XFS. Inode number also called index number. So don't get confused if in future somebody asks you about index number. Both are the same thing. What does this inode number contain? It consists of following attributes, file types. This is just a structure. You can consider it as index. Whenever we read a book, we have an index before reading it. We have 10 chapters into it. So this is exactly similar to that. So what it consists of following attribute, that is file types, executable, block, special, etc. Then it has the permission of the file, the UID of the file, the group ID of the file, what is the size of the file. For example, 100 MB, then it is mentioned in that particular inode table. Timestamp including last access, last modification and last inode number change. File deletion time, when the file was deleted. Number of links, that is hard link or soft link or symlink. Location of file on hard disk, where is the file located on the hard disk. So these are some of the metadata that inode table contains. Coming to our PID, that is a PID is nothing but process identification number, that is automatically assigned to each process when it is created on a Linux system. Each process is guaranteed with a unique PID, which is always a non-negative integer. The process in it is the only process that will always have same PID on any session on any system. Why? Because init is the only process that starts first when a system boots. But that is in RHEL 6. In RHEL 7, system D is the first process that boots, and the PID, the process ID, is always 1. A very large PID does not mean that there are too many processes on a system. This is because such numbers are often a result of the fact that PIDs are not immediately reused in order to prevent possible errors. The default maximum value of PID is 32,767. Yes, there is a fixed value for the PIDs. This maximum is important because it is essentially the maximum number of processes that can exist simultaneously on a system. So this is also a type of question you can keep in your mind, that how many maximum number of processes can exist simultaneously on a system. So there is a fixed value of 32,767 process IDs. Although this will almost always be sufficient for all systems, small, large, require many more processes. Coming to our last question, that is what type of command you have used. These are some scenario based questions you can be asked. What type of command you use for network troubleshooting? So you can answer whatever commands you have used in your organization, previous organization. I have listed here some of the most commonly used network troubleshooting commands. Computers are connected in a network to exchange information or resources with each other. Two or more computers connected through network media called computer network. There are number of network devices or media involved to form computer network. So computer loaded with Linux operating system can also be a part of network, whether it is a small or a large network. So below there are some commands which you can use for troubleshooting network issues. First comes the ifconfig. Ifconfig is nothing but the interface configurator. Command is used to initialize an interface, assign IP address to interface, and enable or disable interface on demand. It can be used along with the interface name. ETH0 is nothing but the interface name. The second command is ping command. Ping command every system admin must have used. We use this often to check the connectivity. We use it with the IP for which we want to check. So here I have given an example of 4.2.2 IP. So if the reply comes, that means our system is getting connected to the particular IP. So this is why we use ping command. Coming to the third command, and that is trace route. is a network troubleshooting utility which shows number of hops taken to reach the destination. So whenever there is a packet coming, it will not come directly. It will also have certain stations where it will go. So this trace route command will show you the number of hops from where the packets are traveling. So below we are tracing a route to global DNS server. This is 4.2.2 is nothing but a global DNS server IP address, and able to reach destination also shows path of that packet is traveling. Netstat is also a very important command. The full form is network statistics. This command display connection for routing table information, etc. To display routing table information, -TULNP, what you are seeing here is nothing but the options of flags which is used. T is nothing but TCP UDP list network ports. Whenever you want to see the list of network ports on your system, you can type this command. Dig command is domain information grouper. Again, a query DNS related information like A record, CNAME, MX record, etc. This command mainly used to troubleshoot DNS related query. So we use this command along with the domain name. Then comes the next one is NSLOOKUP. NSLOOKUP command also used to find out DNS related queries. NSLOOKUP is also used with the domain name. Route command. Route command shows and manipulate IP routing table. To see the default routing table in Linux, type the following command. So that brings us to the end of this video. Thanks for watching. And as said earlier, if you like the video, click the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon to get more videos, because I'll be coming up with more videos. So right now, signing off as of now. See you in the next video. Till then, take care. Bye bye.